Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. So, I was probably a month over 18 when I got pregnant. My boyfriend was very controlling, always yelled, screamed, and after we're married, it got even worse. I stayed with him for 8 years and ended up falling in love with my current husband Arthur at that time. I know we were wrong to have an affair, and I deserve hate for that. I mean, it cost me my daughter, Sophia, now 21. I should have been stronger and just left my ex, cause I doubt he even needed to brainwash her to make her hate me. I tried to be there. I tried to fight for shared custody, but Sophia wanted nothing to do with me. After my ex got remarried, Sophia got a great stepmother who she asked to legally adopt her when she turned 15. I didn't want it to happen and wanted to fight it, but if me being her mom hurt her so much she wanted a new one, I let it because it was my fault and I'd already lost her long ago. After she legally stopped being my daughter, I reconnected with Arthur. We got married, had a daughter, and I'm pregnant with our boy right now. I'd still see Sophia since she'd go to my mom's house a lot, cause that was still her grandma, even if I'm not her mom. My mom, however, died 2 weeks ago, and it's caused a lot of chaos in everybody's lives. Now, we have that weird tradition where the eldest daughter gets a collection of special necklaces. I was the eldest, so I got my mom special necklaces and wore one to her funeral, just like she did to her mom's funeral. At the funeral, when Sophia saw me, she shook my hand like I was a stranger and just said, "Sorry for your loss, Mrs. Ray." Then, after the funeral, she pulled me aside and asked if she would be allowed to take some of the necklaces early because she'd like to wear it to the wake. I just told her no, that the necklaces are mine and after me they'd belong to my daughter because she is the eldest in my family. She just said okay and didn't talk to me at the wake except to say thanks for when I gave her my mother's much more valuable rings. My brother told me I should have let her have some of the necklaces and I was an a-hole not to. The thing is, my mother was the last thing tying Sophia to me, so I don't see how I'm the a-hole for what I did. Not the a-hole. Sophia may be your daughter by blood, but she is no longer your daughter in any other sense of the word. Because she no longer wants to be your daughter, your heirlooms should go to children who will view you as their mother. If your brother wants to give Sophia some of his things, let him. He doesn't get to dictate you, and he's an a-hole for trying. Tell him where to stuff it. I, 30 male, have had the weirdest couple of months of my life. My mom's, 61 female, friend Gary, 60-ish male, recently passed away, and to my surprise, he left all his property in my name in his will. For context, I'm married to Hannah, 28 female, and we have a 2-year-old toddler. We are not wealthy, but both Hannah and I have good jobs and working towards building a good life for us and our kid. About 2 months ago, an estate attorney sent a letter to our house stating that Gary had passed away and I was named in his will. This came as a shock, as we had not seen Gary and his family for years. The only memory I have of Gary is from when I was a kid. His son Jason, late 20s male, and I were friends, and our families were pretty close. Gary and my mom were college friends, and they would come to our house for dinners or parties. Jason and I were of similar age, and I remember Jason following me around the house and us playing video games in my room while the grown-ups had fun downstairs. When I was around 10, they moved out of our town, and I never saw them again. This is the first time in years I've thought about Gary or Jason. I initially thought the letter was a scam letter, but after reading Gary's name on the letter, I called my mom to ask if he was the same Gary who was her friend. She confirmed that the name was the same. I decided to schedule a Zoom call from the estate attorney. The estate attorney, who is also the executor of the will, told us that Gary named me in his will and left me his house, close to $1.5 million in value, and around $800,000 in other assets. This was a shock, as I have no relation to him, and there is no reason why he would even remember me. The executor mentioned that Jason wants to get in touch with me, and if I can provide my contact information to him. I of course agreed, as I wanted to understand what was going on. I talked to Jason via Zoom call. Jason and his wife joined the call. I asked him about Gary and what was going on. Jason told me that Gary and his mom divorced right around the time they moved out of our town. His mother got the primary custody, and he used to spend weekends at Gary's place. However, after a year or so, Gary started slowly pulling out of his life and met him maybe a few times every year. Gary then moved to a different town, and they had very limited contact except for holiday greetings and a few phone calls every year. Jason mentioned that Gary lived alone and did not marry again. Jason is his only living next of kin. Jason's mom has already passed away. Jason also came to know about Gary's death via the state attorney's letter. The estate attorney told Jason that Gary had left $100K for Jason in his inheritance. Jason asked him what he did with the rest of his estate, and the attorney told him that I was named as the beneficiary. Jason asked me if I'd been in touch with Gary over the last few years, and I told him no. Jason asked me if there was any reason why I would be listed as the beneficiary, and I told him that I was not aware of any. My head was spinning, and I thought that maybe I was related to Gary in some way, like he secretly is my bio dad or a sperm donor. I talked to my mom about it, and she told me that I am in no way related to Gary. I asked her why he would leave me his inheritance, and my mom said she could not think of a reason why. She said that she never dated Gary, and they were just good friends from college. She insisted that my dad was my real dad. My dad passed away 3 years ago, hence I cannot do a paternity test. The money is life-changing for me. It will give my family a head start on so many things we want to do. I know Jason plans to challenge the will, as it makes no sense why it would go to me and not his biological son. My mom also feels that I shouldn't accept it, as we had nothing to do with Gary for the last 20 years, and it has to be a mistake why he left me the money. Me and my wife, however, want to claim it, as we are the real beneficiaries. We got in touch with the estate attorney, and he said that the will has not changed in several years, and he was one of the witnesses when he added my name. It was not a mistake, but he also does not know why Gary chose to name me. Am I the a-hole to claim close to $2 million in assets from Gary when I hardly knew him? More importantly, is there a way to check if he was my real dad, as he has passed away and my dad is also not around anymore? I'm not able to understand why he would give me all the money. Well, I personally think that it is possible that Gary was OP's father, and even if someone has passed away, it's possible to do DNA testing to confirm relations. OP's mother might be lying because she doesn't want to hurt OP, and also thinks that OP can't find out who his real father is, as both men are dead now. There is a reason Gary did this. Jason hasn't spoken to Gary in over 10 years. Something big happened between them, and it was big enough for Gary to purposely leave OP most of it, and $100,000 to Jason to make it difficult to contest. Don't you think so, guys? And now let's hear the community's opinion. Crystal Queen 3000 says, "Not the a-hole, but I can understand why his son would try and challenge it. Maybe Gary didn't like his son for some reason and wanted to screw him over in some way. Or maybe you meant more to him than you thought you did. Unless he also left you a letter explaining why, it's unlikely that you'll ever know. You could ask Jason if he's willing to do a sibling DNA test with you to see if there's a match." KindDust7441 says, "Not the a-hole. From what you've written, you only have Jason's version of the story of why he and Gary were no longer close. Maybe it was Jason who distanced himself from his father. Maybe Gary tried to reconcile with his son, but Jason ignored every overture Gary made. Maybe Jason isn't Gary's son at all, in which case a sibling DNA test won't clear up any questions of your paternity. You'll likely never know the reason, but clearly Gary wanted you to inherit his house and fortune. Honor his wishes and enjoy your life." Backstory. I, female 46, had my son, Justin, male 28, when I was 18. I did my best as a young single mother, but I now acknowledge that I had an unhealthy attachment to him. This came to a head when he got engaged and married to his late wife, Kat, 6 years ago. She was not the kindest, and her family dynamic was different. There was a huge power struggle that I rightfully lost, and my son went no contact with me after their wedding. A year later, Kate passed away after becoming ill and being medically neglected by her doctors. My son did not resume contact with me when this happened, and I learned all this secondhand through my son's absent father-sister, Jess, who I am and have always been close to. I did reach out to him once, but was met with silence. I respected this and didn't contact him again. My son married Lily 1.5 years ago and recently welcomed a baby boy. My son doesn't know I know this since I'm blocked everywhere, and I only know because Jess follows his wife on social media. Justin and Lily live in City A, I live in City B, and her parents live in City C. City A is between City B and C. City C and B are a 5-hour and change flight from one another, and City A is a 2-hour flight from City C. Current. I was recently on a girls' trip with Jess visiting some friends and sightseeing in City C. Didn't know her family lived there. I have a flexible job, so I have no real end date for my trip. Jess and I were at the beach. She showed me a picture Lily had posted on her Instagram of her flight info and a caption about being sad to leave her family, but excited to go back home and see Daddy again. I couldn't help it. I got online and booked the same flight. I chose my seat and got one close to her, and then booked a second flight home from City A. I quickly went and packed, then went to the airport. I got there before her, and I saw her struggling with carrying everything by herself in the waiting area. I offered to help her, and I even managed to convince someone to switch me seats to sit next to her. We talked, and she is a very nice girl, and I got to see my grandson. She told me about how she gave birth near her parents, and my son went home last week, but she was going today. I messed up at the end. I asked to hold him once we had landed, and she said no. I should have left it at that, but I just broke down. I told her who I was as I was sobbing. I told her I recognized her from pictures Jess had shown me. I begged her not to tell my son, but I just wanted to hold my sweet grandson once. She screamed at me, and security got involved. She left, I took my flight, and when I landed, I had an email from my son threatening to press charges against me. I don't feel I was wrong. I feel like I've been punished long enough. I respected his wishes, and I will be a wonderful grandma, but my family and Jess are saying I was wrong. I feel lost, hurt, and confused. Oh wow. What OP did here was wrong on every conceivable level. I imagine OP scared her daughter-in-law very badly. This was stalker-level behavior. No, her flight being public info does not make the situation not stalking. Also, OP couldn't help it. OP is an adult woman, and she absolutely can prevent herself from implementing a complicated and devious plan to stalk her daughter-in-law. This isn't something that happened by accident. It was very well planned. Wow, that's scary. I understand why OP's son has no contact with her. And now let's hear the community's opinion. FuzzyPen2414 says, "You're the a-hole. You are someone who refuses to accept boundaries at best, and a stalker at worst. You admit you raised your son poorly, with an unhealthy attachment. No amount of acknowledging it now will change that's what you did. Your child is allowed to be resentful and not have a relationship with you because of it. You need to actually accept it. If you feel like you have been punished enough, then you clearly don't understand the impact you had on your son. You don't get to decide that he's okay with seeing you. You don't get to accost the people in his life. You're not entitled to them. You absolutely terrified her, and you have to ask if you're the a-hole?" Mrs. Ward97 says, "You're the a-hole. You stalked her. How are you not sure if you're the a-hole? I can't imagine she was really all that excited that you were pushing your way to get closer to her during the flight, too. What the hell?" I would love to hear more about this power struggle with his first wife. Trademarks JA says, "You're the a-hole. You were so crappy to your son in the past that he decided he didn't want you in his life. Then you decided to essentially stalk his new wife and force an interaction on a plane. Pretty safe to say that any chance of reconnection with your son are gone due to, once again, your actions. Usually, the person being punished doesn't have a say in the length or duration of punishment. Maybe seek professional help from a therapist or something similar, as you clearly need help getting closure on this." I, 48 female, am getting married to 39 male. Never been married before. This is my second marriage. The first ended with my husband cheating on me and moving in his mistress. He offered me a tidy sum to divorce him. I took that money and moved abroad, where I met my now husband. My kids, 27 male and 25 female, are angry they are not invited to my wedding. They found out through extended family that I am getting remarried. I'm not in contact with them. My choice. They kept trying to make me get along with my ex and his mistress. Apparently, I was to graciously roll over and accept their disrespect. I have no desire to be friends with my ex and mistress. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my kids to my wedding? Edit. We got divorced 5 years ago, so they were 23 and 20. They wanted me to be friends with my ex and his mistress. My ex wanted me to give my blessing for his relationship. Apparently, I was his best friend, and he loved me as the mother of his children, but he was in love with his mistress. He was shocked when I no longer wanted to contact him. My kids thought I should forgive him and be friends. They went so far as to invite me to lunch or dinner with them, and then surprise, invite my ex and his mistress. They would host family events with their significant others and lie to me that ex would be earlier or later, so I didn't bump into him. Of course, he was always there. They cannot handle the fact that he and I are no longer on speaking terms and want us to get along. Maya2661 says, "Not the a-hole. The way your children have behaved towards you so far, I would be worried that they wouldn't do something wrong at the wedding. Also, I think it's pretty cold-hearted and selfish for your children and ex-husband to keep confronting you about your ex-husband's cheating and asking for your blessing. What the duck is wrong with them? Your kids are over 20 and should know better." The Hound Abides says, "They did not understand that while my love for them is infinite, my patience for their antics is not." This is the absolutely healthiest thing I think I've ever read. You can love someone and still not let them walk all over you. I feel for your children, as I'm sure they are gutted by the loss of their united family. That doesn't mean you need to sacrifice your own peace. They're old enough to understand it's not possible, and it's not their place. Until they stop trying to meddle, it's best to keep your space. 1968 Phantom says, "Not the a-hole. Sadly, it may take something like what happened to you to happen to them before they understand."